Indiana football got some great news coming out of spring practice and a lot of stuff with Curt Cignetti getting to the podium talking about some different things going on in spring practice. We're going to have one video from Twitter we're going to play here. Other stuff, I like these quotes here while I kind of read you an excerpt of a story that kind of quotes Curt Cignetti and what gets talked about a little bit. Now, let's get into the first piece of good news here. The quarterback depth is looking good, and so much so that Curt Cignetti felt comfortable. Well, not just the depth, but the quarterback play sounds like it's looking good. So much so that they were willing to let Josh Hoover actually sit out for a practice. That's when I saw that headline at first. I saw like Josh Hoover sits out of practice. I was like, holy cow, what's going on? What is happening? Josh Hoover not in practice. Well, it turns out it's just to get the younger guys some more reps and try to get them going a little bit more. And Curt Cignetti actually pointed out one player in particular, a guy that I'm really excited about because he wasn't, technically on the roster last season to try and give him a year off with some different stuff going on. But this year he is. And I mean, this might be the type of guy that Curt Cignetti looks at and says, I might not need to go get a portal quarterback. I might be able to play this guy instead. I still will believe it when I see it, as Cignetti loves to go out and get guys who have produced elsewhere, but it's going to be a very interesting situation. So anyway, I have it highlighted here next to me. If you're listening on podcast, I will read it for you. But in his remarks after practice, Curt Cignetti said that he sat Josh Hoover out at practice so that other quarterbacks on the depth chart could get some snaps. As the presumptive quarterback one for the 2026 season, Hoover brings a wealth of experience from TCU, where he posted a 19-12 record over 31 starts and a rise as the nation's leading returning passer with over 9,600 career yards. Skipping one day of practice may not affect him much, but it will definitely help the red shirt freshman. Here's a quote from Cignetti. That's the first time I've done that, said Cignetti, but we need to do it to kind of find out more about these guys. I need to see him, Hoover, against better competition. You know what I mean? I need to see Tyler Cherry with the ones. I need to see Maverick Geske with the twos. And I need to see Jacob Bell with more work because he's got a live arm. And I probably need to get him some two works here. Sorry. Messed up that quote there at the end. So to me, I think this is great news for Indiana. Obviously, Curt Cignetti is looking at the situation and saying, look, Hoover's experienced enough. We can give him the day off of practice, maybe just let him kind of walk around, be a coach on the field, and maybe that's what he needs. Maybe Curt Cignetti wants Josh Hoover to have some more time to get around some of his other teammates, coach up the young guys a little bit. It'd be a fantastic situation for Josh Hoover to get used to that role a little bit more. Obviously, in a new situation here at Indiana, sounds like he was able to do it at TCU, regardless of whatever, Sonny Dykes wants to say about him. That whole situation is still crazy to me. But overall, this entire situation here, I think this is really good news for Indiana. I think this is really good news that Curt Cignetti was able to signal out a guy like Tyler Cherry, who, like I said, he wasn't even on the roster last season because of an issue that he had this season. And he was a highly touted quarterback prospect, a guy with a whole lot of talent, a guy that, honestly could come in and start for Indiana someday. We'll see what the quarterback position looks like next season, but with Tyler Cherry already, Curt Cignetti want to see him run with the ones and stuff like that. This could be a really good situation here. And as we know, Indiana is always going to have fantastic wide receivers under Mike Shanahan. So that's going to help him tremendously as well. This is a great situation, in my opinion. Let Josh Hoover sit, get some time away, and then now bring Tyler Cherry in to get some work with the ones, see what you got, and be able to work with it. If something does happen to Josh Hoover, God forbid, but if something does happen to Josh Hoover this season, you're able to count on Tyler Cherry because he got some of those reps. All right. Next one here, this one from Twitter, Michael Nizalek. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. It is at Michael Michael Nizolek. It's hard to read the gray lettering there. Anyway, I'm going to play this here of Curt Cignetti talking about the competition at cornerback. He says, first thing is Jamari Sharpe's really taking a step. He's hard to beat. That's one quote of what's going on here. So we'll
first thing is,
Jamari
Sharpe's really taking a step. He really played well at the end of the year in the playoffs, and I've seen him continue to progress. He's making plays out there at field corner, and it's hard to beat. And then in the bench, A.J. Harris, I think, has done a really nice job, as has Gandy, who I think's really improved since he's been here. It's good competition we've going there. And we're probably a little deeper corner right now than we have been the first 2 years. Yeah, first thing is.
All right, if you didn't hear that very well, I apologize. It was not the loudest audio ever, but essentially what Curt Cignetti is saying here is that Jamari Sharpe has really stepped up. Sounds like he is kind of cornerback one for this team, and he was one of the guys I was talking about when people were talking about like, Indiana's going to lose all their players. It's like, guys, Jamari Sharpe is a junior. Long behold, he comes out, he gets the interception to win the national championship, and if you watched Jamari Sharpe last season, he just continually improved throughout the year, and I think he's ready to step into that cornerback one type of situation. Of course, you have A.J. Harris coming in from Penn State as well. He's a fantastic cornerback. He had an okay year at Penn State, a little bit of issues here and there. He transfers out. He comes to Indiana here. He's going to get fantastic coaching, and I really feel like this is probably one of the most slept on cornerback duos in the not just in the Big Ten, but in the country overall. Jamari Sharpe, A.J. Harris, the type of coaching you're going to get back there on the back end, and with how Bryant Haynes runs his defense to be able to put those guys in favorable situations. You saw Jamari Harris make the very smart play to keep dropping back into coverage on that last play in the national championship game. You're just going to continue to see very smart play from these guys. And that's the type of stuff that you love to see. That's the type of stuff that changes games. Obviously, last play of the game, but still, if that were to happen in the second quarter or something like that, that's the kind of stuff that changes games and gives Indiana such a better chance to win games when they have guys out there being playmakers, making plays like that. And to me, that's who that's who Jamari Sharpe is. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's a guy that's going to continue to improve. He's going to be a leader on this team. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Jamari Sharpe this season next to A.J. Harris, Gandy, as well as Curt Cignetti pointed out there. It's going to be some very, very interesting stuff. All right, last quote here. Last piece of good news coming out of camp for Indiana. Khobie Martin shows the unselfishness of the Indiana running back room. So not a long quote here, but I do think it says a lot. When speaking with the media on Thursday, let's get rid of that. When speaking to the media on Thursday, Martin made a point about Hoosier running backs not caring about who gets the most touches or touchdowns. They just want to win. Quote, "We try to win. We try to be great. And so if we need multiple running backs to do that, then that's what we need." End quote from Khobie Martin. This just continues to encompass like this Curt Cignetti program and how much he brings in guys who don't care about themselves. I had the whole joke with like the gold shoes and everything with Nick Marsh. That was fun. That was funny. That kind of encompassed things a little bit, but really this is the kind of quote that encompasses that, right? You got a guy who is in the running back room and he's saying, I don't care how many touches I get. I don't care how many touchdowns I get. Whatever is best for the team to go out there and win. And that's the type of mentality you need to have. That was the mentality that everybody on last year's team had. And that was the type of mentality that I'm convinced Curt Cignetti was talking about. He wanted to instill into these guys as much as possible at the beginning of spring camp. And now after 2 weeks of camp, 2 weeks being over, Curt Cignetti is he looks like he's got it all, doing very well. Now, of course, Khobie Martin was on the team last year, so it's not like he's somebody that came in and needed this to be taught to him. But obviously he knows it. Obviously he's sharing it with his teammates. Obviously that locker room is going to be very strong in that. Even with bringing in a whole bunch of new freshmen, transfers, and stuff like that, you still have an incredible culture here at Indiana. You still have a culture of winning, a culture of guys caring about one another, caring about the team over themselves. And that's really, really powerful when you have it on that team. And especially when you have a guy like Khobie Martin, who's going to be playing more this season, saying, look, doesn't matter. As long as we get out there and be great as a team, that's what matters the most. So love that information. Love that news. And you should love it too if you're an Indiana fan. If you're not an Indiana fan, you should be real scared. I mean, right? If you got Indiana on the schedule, get terrified of what could come next. Now I'm joking, but Indiana is going to be a fantastic football team this year. Looking forward to seeing another year of Curt Cignetti with the Indiana Hoosiers.